best story you've ever said, Embers. And you do love to put a mayo on all of your stories.
The story happened almost 20 years ago. And I must admit, football trip, my vision might have been a little bit blurred.
How many little beers were you deep when
4,500 off them when I reckon tried to get on the team bus at Fremantle.
We thought it's only fair that we hear the other version of events from the person in question, which is Ryan Crowley. Welcome to the show!
Welcome, Kraus.
Great to be here, guys.
Yes.
Great to be here.
Do I need to sit in the middle of you two, by the way? You guys okay now? Or?
Well, we actually get on really well now. So, geez, back in the early 2000s, I don't think we had much time for each other.
If someone fast forwarded me to this point and said that we were mates, I would have thought the world was ending. But yeah, no, we are actually good friends.
So you kind of heard what Embers had said, and that was a very short version of it. But you did say yesterday that there were a few holes in his story, or maybe he wasn't telling the full truth. So from your perspective, what happened? Take us back.
Because, of course, you played in the game, didn't you? I didn't play in the game. I watched it. You played.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's a lot of untruths. I just think there was a few things maybe left out that I wouldn't mind adding. Yeah, exactly like Ember said, though. I found it quite bizarre, even as a young guy back then, that they were playing a Western Derby over in London with no cameras, no AFL officials, no repercussions. It felt like a red rag at a bull to me, to be honest. But it was a crazy game. We're playing at one of those famous cricket grounds at the Oval.
The Oval, yes.
Yeah, an amazing ground, and I've watched so many great Ashes games there, and you're like, how cool is this? We're playing there, and they'd actually bring in extra seating for all the expats that were coming to watch it. And it was a huge crowd. Absolutely huge. And I think it's the biggest crowd they've ever had at the Oval before. My brother was actually over there at the time with some friends as well. He was in the crowd. They were having a good time, drinking a few tins like yourself, Embers. And the game was first time they hadn't televised that game, which once again was a bit of an error. Error by the AFL. But we weren't really taking the game too seriously. We'd gone out the night before, and I remember a few of the boys had got home when the light was up and hiding behind pillars as the coaches were walking around, just trying to get on the team bus. Ran upstairs, got their kit, jumped on. But then a few of the guys, even the players that weren't playing, had put beer in the drink bottles. So they were running around and giving us beer. So it was
not Powerade, we're talking like a few Fosters in a...
Fosters, the only time you drink Fosters.
It's like country football at its absolute best.
And it started a bit that way, and we had some funny goal celebrations in the first quarter, and it was all going quite nicely. And then halfway through the second quarter, I think it was Paul Hazelby tried to kick me the ball, and he missed me by a fair mile. He's probably because he was drunk. And the ball went over my head, and I was running back to the flight, as I do.
Yeah,
sure. As quickly as I could. I just missed it, and one of your young players was running the other way, and I just with the momentum.
Accidentally whacked him with your fist.
Yeah, no, it was right with the edge of my shoulder, right up and straight up and down, and he wasn't in a good way. I could tell straight away. And one of your other young players had scooped the ball up, and I tackled him, and because of the hard ground on the cricket ground, his head hit the ground. And I remember looking up, and the whole field just running towards me. And
so you started picking on the young kids at West Coast.
I was 21 too. You really got to remember.
Ryan was a young kid too.
I was a young kid too. Yeah, which is one of those holes in your story, I would have thought. But,
all the old veterans are playing the youngies.
I'm old now. I wasn't old back then. Yeah, exactly. And and everyone was just running towards, and it was on. It was on. It took 10 or 15 minutes for the officials to break everybody up, and it was it was a lot scarier than being on AFL field. To me, as tough as you want, but no one's gonna whack.
But in a game like that with no cameras and everyone pretty much pissed,
and a heightened sense just because it's the Derby, and it was on, and finally they come out and said you got a minute basically to break this up, otherwise we're calling the game off. So they finally broke it up, and then as it got broken up. I think the guy's name was Ashley Thornton. He didn't play too many guys.
Yeah, Thornton.
But he ran past me and he gave me one right as we'd broken it all up. So I thought I'd give him a little jumper punch back, and I grabbed his jumper, but his jumper was ripped down to about his belly button. So I got a fair way away before I gave him one.
Do you have a belly button ring on?
Yeah, probably. Being a West Coast player. And then, down he went, and it was on again. And John Worsfold at the time actually left the West Coast Eagles coach's box. Went down to the Freo coach's box, kicked the door in, and basically demanded they take they take me off the field.
Well, let's find out more about that in just a tick, because John Worsfold, I am told, was obviously very livid at that
Not
point,
happy.
but it
Fuming,
continued.
Leachy,
And there are some more stories that we need to uncover from this incredible game, the exhibition game, 2005.
That was not filmed,
No.
and that's so annoying because I want to see it.
The Brawl in London. More with Ryan Crowley next on the Rush Hour with Embers and Katie at 92.9 Triple M. This is the Rush Hour, a bit of a special edition right now of the Rush Hour with Embers and Katie at 92.9 Triple M. Of course, the Derby is happening on Saturday. There was a big incident that happened in 2005, an exhibition game between the West Coast Eagles and Fremantle that Andrew Embley wasn't a part of. But the man that is here, Ryan Crowley, he definitely was. He's telling us all about this incredible story, Embers.
Yes, and so Crowds, he's whacking a few people in the first half. He's all over it now. In the second half, right, it was completely on. Now, my understanding is that John Worsfold, who I know was fuming about this particular game, he certainly wanted to get you. I think really wished he was playing. And he might have had a word to Daniel Chick, and we know how strong Chicky is, to maybe go out and play on Ryan Crowley in the second half, Kraus.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. So after Woosher had gone into our coach's box and they'd basically told him to go away in a bit less friendly manner, he wasn't too happy, and they'd actually pulled Chicky out of the game at half time, but Woosher told him to go put his boots back on and come and get a bit of retribution.
Just play on Crowds very closely.
If you missed it, the Dockers came out, went whack to all the young
They
Eagles
did.
boys. But
And-
Ryan's only 21, mind you.
Well, hang on. We did play a lot of our young kids, and I know Crowds was 21, but they did also have a few older kids. Chicky was really the only senior player playing in that game. So you're right. He was only playing the first half. Woosh said, mate, listen, I think we're going to get you to play in the second half. Okay. Let's see if you can do the tugging on Crowds.
Well, we didn't play much footy after that, I've got to be honest. Chicky come out to me and he was honest. He said, I didn't see what happened, to be honest, Krause. He said, but Woosher told me we were going to come and get you. And I said,
Oh, my God, that's so scary.
I said, all right, let's go. So me and him basically just fought for the rest of the game. I actually don't remember seeing the football at all for the rest
I
of the
just
half.
stood in the forward pocket and just blued for
Yeah.
the crowd behind was just fan. They were just going, this is the best game of football I've ever seen in my life.
It was absolutely insane. It ended up coming down. It ended up being a close game, which was it made it even crazier. And then Jeff Farm ended up kicking the winning goal right towards the end of the game. He kicked a check side from the boundary line, actually jumped over the fence, sat down and started clapping himself.
What a king!
So arrogant. I love it.
The Wizard,
he was
you got to
a
love the
star,
Wiz.
wasn't he?
Oh, he was unbelievable.
So good, yes.
And then the siren went, and we went off like we'd won the grand final. It was because it was just
Well, considering you guys haven't won much in your life, it was. I can understand why you were very happy.
Whoa. Take. Come on, whoa.
If we wanted to stay friendly, Embers, you'll stop that. But the AFL officials that were there were obviously understanding that they've got to get us separated straight away. So they've run out, the crowds all come out, but they have got us off the ground as quickly as possible.
Yep.
We went into the change rooms and once again started drinking Fosters, and which is the only time you ever drink Fosters, and started telling stories like you do when you've been in a fight, Embers. That's all you want to do. So, and but then the funniest part about this whole story was we were going to an after-match function with you guys after the match.
Yeah.
And I was one of the last to leave the change rooms, and I sort of walked out to where I thought the bus was down into the car park, and there was a handful of West Coast players waiting for me in the car park after the game.
And was Andrew Embley one of them?
And Andrew Embley was one of them, which is a part that he did leave out the other day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So who else was there? Was Embers? Who else were...
Well, Juddy was there, and that's laughable. I mean, come on, Juddy. He's a good footy player, but I reckon I've
Juddy, I said, come on, Juddy, come along. I said, come on, cuz, come along.
Yeah.
I tried to also grab a couple of my dodgy mates that were living over in London as well with lots of tattoos, and they rode motorbikes. So I think they were sort of waiting around as well.
Yeah, I mean, you already had 4 and 1, but why wouldn't you want more? And then, luckily for me, and this is where the story differs a little bit. Luckily for me, Anthony Grover was the last guy to leave the change rooms, and he come out behind me and No one wants to fight Groves.
Nah, Groves, for those people that don't know, Anthony Grover can go. Like he would probably be the best boxer along with Desi Headland at Fremantle at the time. They can blue.
And he's 6'5", 6'6",
yeah, and doesn't mind throwing them as well.
Right.
Yeah, he grew up in Belga. So,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Embers recalls it all as though he was like, big-chested. But when he saw Groves...
That's the thing. When I tried to get onto the bus, it was Groves who actually grabbed me and goes, Embers, and thank goodness I know Groves, because if I hadn't known Groves, then suddenly I would have been on a punch-up with Groves and I would have come off second best. Yeah. So he sort of gave me the warning. He said, mate, you are kidding yourself right now. He goes, get off.
Yeah. It was just a crazy time. And I just remember the commotion on the bus, especially when Embers tried to get on there. And obviously you're a young player and I didn't want to take it back. Like a backward step, so I was trying to get up, and people
he's trying to
me
get
down
off the bus coming. I'm trying to get on the bus.
Yeah, absolutely insane. So we've gone to this aftermatch function, and we've stood on one wall on one side of the room. The Eagles have stood on the other wall on the other side of the room, and all these dignitaries in the middle just standing there, cutting the tension with a knife in between us. And
do you remember that Mike Tyson fight years ago when all those yellow securities were inside the ring? You had Tyson on one side. I think it was Evander Holyfield on the other side. That was like dysfunction. Like it was just like both sides wanted to get to the middle, and these poor people from the AFL and the security that they had in the middle of us, like it was actually quite. I actually seen nothing like it.
It would have been so funny if they then made you both have to play snowball, where you go and pick someone from the other side.
No, I love that. But the one thing that the only time I was scared that day was in that function, and Woosha was just staring at me everywhere I went. And I'd had a directive from the club as they do not start anything here, just leave it alone. But I wasn't starting it with Woosha, I promise you that. He was just staring at me, and he changed, and it was a bit scary, to be honest. I seen what he was like when he was on the field, and he obviously, from that moment on to post-London, didn't really talk to me. I'd see him out, say hello, and he'd sort of blank me and go the other way, and didn't talk to him for, basically 10 years. And then I was just retired, and then all the Essendon supplement saga stuff happened. And then I got a phone call, and my iPhone said, maybe John Worsfold. And I was like...
maybe.
I've got this number in my phone, but maybe
maybe someone who wants to kill you.
Should I be picking this phone call up?
Maybe pick up.
Yeah, maybe don't answer. And I picked it up. I was like, hello. And he didn't even say hello. He just said, do we need to get London out of the way? And I started laughing. I said, John, that happened 12 years ago, mate. You probably got to let it go. And he started laughing, and then he said, you want to come play at Essendon for me? And and then off I went. So
rest is history.
Yeah. But crazy story. And it's such a good story because nobody knows it happened. It wasn't televised. It was overseas.
But it sounds like the one game I wish that was televised. That sounds
it's the
like
one game, and as Ryan said, like for 10 years after that, there was some real. There was some big challenges between both West Coast and Fremantle and their relationships.
All right, let's get more from Ryan Crowley on this. Obviously, the Derby coming up this weekend, RAC Western Derby, but also the Quokka is coming up as well. We'll chat to you a bit about that in just a moment. This is the Rush Hour with Andrew Embley, Katie Lamb, and Ryan Crowley with us here on 92.9 Triple M. This is the Rush Hour, Andrew Embley, Katie Lamb, and we've got a fourth member of the team today because Ryan Crowley's also with us here at 92.9 Triple M. It's been great having you here in studio. Of course, we're leading up to the RAC Derby, which is happening on Saturday, 4 p.m. Our coverage kicks off here on 92.9 Triple M, and of course bounce down at Optus Stadium at 6:10. The Derby itself, obviously, we're talking about this incident that happened in 2005, exhibition game where West Coast and Fremantle just punched on. From that point, Fremantle had a huge record against Freo had a huge record against West Coast. They won 9 of the next 10.
Yep.
So we're talking a bit about line in the sand. It sort of really was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was almost an accidental line in the sand. And I remember people talking about that after. I think we won, something ridiculous, like 9 of the next 11 or something like that. And West Coast were a great team through that period. I mean, we weren't bad either. But
the year that we won the grand final, Fremantle won both derbies.
Okay. Yes. Wow. Yep.
Yeah, and we've spoken about this before, I know you disagree, but I genuinely think that Sydney beating you at home by a point put us on the other side of the draw to you, and I think then we would have had a Derby prelim.
That's exactly right.
We felt like we had your measure at the time.
And thank goodness we didn't have a Derby prelim because, Fremantle did have the wood over us. But in saying that, Fremantle also played in their preliminary final in 2006 and unfortunately couldn't get the job done. So we're never going to know.
So, Ryan,
we gave you a chance.
Did you and Embers ever play on each other after that incident in London?
To go with me, but
thanks for bringing that up, Katie.
That's okay. Here to help.
Well, we played on each other twice post London, and leading in London, pre-London, I would always usually go to Juddy. It was Juddy and only Juddy, and he was unbelievable through that period, probably as good as anybody I've ever played.
The best footy he played was through 05, 06
Absolutely.
West Coast.
He almost unplayable. He was so good. I remember I was on him one day and he was a pre-game paying $1.85 to win the Ross Glendenning, knowing that I'm going to tag him. So,
oh my God, I don't want to play today. I think I'm
that makes you feel good. He didn't win it either,
and
by
still
the way.
won it.
But he was phenomenal through that small period. And then, obviously, when he took off and went over to Carlton, the next two times lined up on the big fella next to me here.
Tried to.
And it was the unbelievable player. And some of his strengths are my biggest attributes as well. He's got the height for a midfielder. He's got the strength. Sort of, and but he's a great runner as well, and that was sort of my strength, which it did play into my hands a little bit, and I didn't have a bad record on the end. I don't think he had more than 12 on me, to be honest. So,
wow.
How hard is it, on a serious note, though, how hard is it to run around and stop someone from getting the ball? I mean, come on. I mean, I might have had 12. I think I kicked 4, but...
I am being a bit facetious. He was a nightmare match up to play on. But,
Krause had a very good record on, I think, everyone that he played against. Who was the toughest opponent that you played on?
I say this every time. It's definitely Gary. Just because...
Gary Ablett.
Yeah, Gary Ablett. Sorry. From the first moment I played on him until, year 15 when I retired and he was still going, it's that hard, the whole way through, and probably the hardest. Juddy had that bright spot where he was phenomenal,
explosive, strong.
But I felt like it was a bit more fleeting, where he was right at his peak, whereas Ablett was the whole way through. And then there's other guys that were just nightmares to play, like Travis Boak. They just worked so hard, and you knew you had to have your running shoes on, and even a guy like Tom Scully, he was just such an unbelievable runner that I knew I'm going to run 19 Ks today, and that's not fun knowing that drive to the ground. So, but I always say Gary, and clearly Gary.
If you're playing for Fremantle this week, which West Coast player would you go to?
Yeah, personally, I don't know if the coaches would do this. I'd go to Reid.
Kelly Reid.
And I'd make it a really tough day for him. And knowing it's his young player, everybody in the crowd's got his number on their back, and I'd try and make it a really tough day for him because if you can cut the head of the snake off, obviously.
Yeah.
Welcome to AFL footy, young fella.
Yeah, which I don't think happens enough these days. I don't think it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
I'd try and make it a tough day for him.
Now, obviously, something massive is happening on Saturday, and it's not just the RAC Derby, of course, the Quokka. Now, you're at Perth Racing at the moment. This is going to be a wonderful event Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, the Kia Quokka. I've got to get the sponsor in, mate. I've just got them on board. So,
good on you.
Well done. Is that you? Tick, tick.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be a huge day. Obviously, the second running, the inaugural one last year, which was obviously a massive success. But
Overpass won it, and he's back this year as well.
Overpass back to defend the title. $5 million. I mean, it's
so good. So last year was $4 million. This year, another $1 million's been added onto that. So good for WA racing.
More than any race in Britain, any race in America. And we've got this here in WA, and we've got a chance to see it. And these slot races where people can buy a slot in the race, and then they fill it with their own horse. They're a new concept in racing, but they're taking the racing world by storm. And obviously, the Everest is the one that everybody knows, but this is our version of the Everest.
Yes.
And you've got a chance to come down and see some of the best sprinters in Australia on Saturday, and then go straight to the Derby afterwards.
I was going to say, so you can do both, can't you? Like if you're big, into racing, and then the footy, you can go to the Kia Quokka.
I think the last race is 5 o'clock at Ascot on Saturday,
yes.
And then obviously 6:10 bounce down.
Yep.
So tickets, how are they going, and where can we buy them from?
Yeah, tickets, you can get them online through the Perth Racing website, or you can get them on the gate on the day.
Perfect.
It'll be a massive crowd, over 10,000, 10 to 15,000 there.
Yep.
So we want to get everyone there. The weather's going to be fantastic.
Yep.
In a few years' time, we'll realise what we have in this race. It's obviously only the second running, so people are still learning. But
getting their head around it.
This is it's the pinnacle of racing in WA. WA.
Well,
Awesome.
It is going to be a huge weekend and a huge Saturday. As we said, Kia Quokka happening during the afternoon and the RAC Derby at night. And Ryan Crowley is going to be all over it, as to his Andrew Hemberg at the field, because when he rocks up to our OB in the afternoon, I feel like he is going to be...
Had a few small beers?
Just possibly.
No, I'm working on Saturday night, so I'll be at the Quokka. I will certainly be there, but
Breath
I
test him as
will
he gets
be
there.
Drunk.
alcohol-free on Saturday afternoon.
Ryan Crowley, thank you so much for joining us here on
Brilliant,
the
mate.
Rush Hour.
Good on
Thank
you,
you for
Crowes.
telling us about this incredible story that happened back in 2005 in the UK. And turns out that you were right, Ryan Crowley, and Andrew Embley was sort of wrong.
Again.
No surprises. Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate your time.
This
Thank you.
is the Rush